On today's Padone My Take, it's official, folks. Jadeveon Clowney Watch 2021 is among us. Do you want Jadeveon Clowney on the Cleveland Browns? We get into that. We break down some Cleveland Browns free agency grades. What move did you like the best? We're going to get into all that. NBA trade deadline is tomorrow. Could the Cavs make some move? We'll look around the rest of the NBA as well. Who's going to go where? What's trending outside the world of sports and so much more. But first, Padone My Take is brought to you by my guys at bigplay.com and the Big Play Store. Padone My Take has merchandise. That's right. I've teamed up with the Big Play Store for the exclusive Padone My Take t-shirt. That's what you guys want to get your hands on. The Big Play Store has a ton of awesome Cleveland designs like retro Browns shirts, the brand new Sexland t-shirt to rep our Cleveland Cavaliers backcourt. Mine's coming in the mail shortly. Yours should be too. Visit the Big Play Store today by going to bigplay.com and selecting the store tab at the top of the page. While you're there, browse all the great designs. Make sure to grab my Padone My Take shirt. Would appreciate that a whole lot. But even if you don't, use my promo code Padone for 15% off your entire purchase. That's my last name, promo code Padone at checkout for 15% off of your brand new awesome shirt, only with the Big Play Store. Without further ado, let's do it. What's happening, everybody? Welcome on into Padone My Take, streaming live on bigplay.com. We're also on Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, Sportscaster on demand for free, as always, at Apple Pods and Spotify. My name is Nick Padone, hanging out with you guys. For the next hour or so, packed show tonight with a whole lot of news to get into because Jadeveon Clowney met with the Cleveland Browns today. Yeah, how about that, man? So last season, we remember the Cleveland Browns missed out on Jadeveon Clowney. He ended up going to the Tennessee Titans on a one-year deal. Seemed like it was between the Browns and the Titans at the very end. Clowney chose the Titans. We already have some comments in the chat. As always, join the conversation, guys. Drop a comment in the chat. Tweet me at NickPadone12. Tweet the show at Padone My Take. Do you think the Browns get this Jadeveon Clowney deal done? That's what we're talking about today. Personally, I would be a fan of it. I think Jadeveon Clowney is the missing piece of this Cleveland Browns free agency class. I'm a gigantic fan of what Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, Paul D. Podesta, all those minds in Berea were able to sit down and figure out and put together. Huge fan of it thus far. I think that Jadeveon Clowney signing could be the needle that just moves it the rest of the way for me. I am so excited about the possibility of that. I want to hear from you guys, though. We also have a poll on Twitter at Padone My Take. Make sure to go vote on there as well. Do you want to see Jadeveon Clowney in a Browns uniform for 2021? Obviously, some interesting stuff when we think about this. Obviously, the visit today, nothing is intimate on this, right? The Browns hosted Jadeveon Clowney, free agent visit per ESPN's Adam Schefter, per Field Yates. The visit has already ended with no deal. Now, sometimes that's how these things go. It also doesn't appear as if the Jadeveon Clowney market is absolutely bussing right now, unless I completely forgot somebody. And somebody please pass it along if I did. I don't think there's a lot of teams out there at this point as I crack this microphone on Wednesday. I don't know that any other team around the NFL is really clamoring for Jadeveon Clowney. which is interesting as it occurs to the Cleveland Browns because we know that this Browns interest extends from last season. Now, could this have just been a meeting where the Browns want to kick the tires on a player they had interest in last year, obviously due to COVID-19 and the way the world was during free agency last season? They could not even meet with Clowney or any free agent, so they missed out on him, they believe. However, I always operate under the mindset and under the ideology of you don't bring in a guy to a free agent meeting if you don't have a little bit of interest in signing him. And we know the Browns wanted him last year. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and think that the Browns, they want to get this done. And I think they could. Jadeveon Clowney is certainly a interesting situation because we look at what the Browns have done in free agency. You get a really solid starting slot cornerback in Troy Hill. That was a missing piece, especially with the injury history of Denzel Ward, of Greedy Williams. That's a position that needed upgraded solely based on injury, but also Kevin Johnson wasn't great last year. He wasn't horrible, but he wasn't a Super Bowl slot corner. Besides the point. Obviously, John Johnson III, that's the highlight. We're going to get into all the Browns free agent gradings throughout the show. A, B, C, D, F. We're going to grade them all. The missing piece is edge rusher. And I'm a big Takk McKinley guy, but I think Takk McKinley, and I think that the fact that the Browns brought in Jadeveon Clowney for a free agent meeting is a subtle way of Andrew Berry's team telling us Takk McKinley's just a guy that they like, a guy that they're hopeful for, a guy that they definitely like the motor, but can he put it all together on the field for 16 plus games to make a playoff run, if not a run at the Super Bowl? That seems to be the outstanding question, and that's why so many eyes have pivoted towards the 26th overall draft pick. Well, the easy pick there is linebacker. Oh, it could be an outside corner with Denzel Ward and Greedy. Not anymore. Now people are starting to mock in their, mock drafts. We got to get a hotkey, the draft chime hotkey that they'll play ad nauseum whenever we have a mock draft on the show for the next month. It's crazy. Draft is only a month away. Time flies. However, I think that all comes to a head today, where the Browns no longer are looking towards the draft for that edge rusher. They don't have all the faith in the world in Takk McKinley, and that's not a knock on Takk McKinley. Again, Takk McKinley is a guy that they like, a guy that they attempted to claim off waivers 3 times and couldn't due to failed physicals and the fact that the Browns were winning too many games, which is crazy to think about. Jadeveon Clowney is the answer to all of this, folks. And I know he's not the greatest and the sexiest name out there, right? Like, we all wanted a piece of the Carl Lawson action. And then when that was done, we looked at Trey Hendrickson. And when that, even before that, Bud Dupree. Even before all these guys, J.J. Watt was who we wanted. We knew coming into this offseason that finding that complementary edge rusher to pair with Myles Garrett was going to be a very, very, very important piece of what Andrew Berry had to do this offseason. He's done everything else. Which leads me to this. And of course, that poll is on Twitter at PadoneMyTake. As always, tweet the show at PadoneMyTake. Tweet me at NickPadone12. Or just drop a comment in the stream if you're watching live. Do you want the Browns to sign Jadeveon Clowney? And there's an argument out there to be made for the Browns to just look the other direction. I've seen that already on Twitter today. People that are just like, no way. The guy disrespected you last year. He didn't want to come here. He played 8 games, and in those 8 games, underwhelming. He tore his meniscus at the end, had surgery in December. That's not a guy that I want on my Cleveland Browns. I'm here to tell you the opposite, folks. I'm here to tell you that Jadeveon Clowney is exactly what the Browns need. The Browns didn't go out there and sign Carl Lawson, Bud Dupree, Trey Hendrickson, J.J. Watt. You could throw his name in there. Because those guys got paid. Andrew Berry has played within his margins this entire free agency. He wasn't looking to go out there and pay $30, $40 million for Bud Dupree, who just tore his ACL because he had a lot of sacks. Of course he had a lot of sacks. He lined up his entire career next to a future Hall of Famer on that Steelers defensive line. Same with Carl Lawson. Got a huge payday. Hendrickson, J.J. Watt. However, Jadeveon Clowney, he fits the mold a little bit better for what the Cleveland Browns are trying to do in 2021. They want to play within their margins. They don't have all the cap space in the world like we've seen in years past. We've seen the Browns win salary cap championship year in and year out through 1-31 and do nothing in free agency and sit on their hands. You guys don't need me to tell you that. I know you all remember that just as well as I do. But now we're in a unique spot as an organization, as a fan base, where we're seeing these veteran defensive players take pay cuts to leave the city of Los Angeles, the city of angels, to come to Cleveland, Ohio, to play for the Browns, because we have structure in place. Kevin Stefanski is in place. Joe Woods, who I was yelling and screaming about at season end, he could be the luckiest man in Cleveland right now. If he could figure this defense out with JJ the third at safety, with getting Grant Delpit and Greedy Williams healthy, we hope for the whole season. Tack McKinley, add in some of these other defensive acquisitions. Joe Woods is in a good spot, folks. And then it comes down to Jadeveon Clowney, which is what we're talking about today. I think it's got to get done, because that's the one outlier. That's the missing piece. And that allows Andrew Berry to get that big name veteran defensive end that will help take some of the load off of 95. Also, Jadeveon Clowney, he wasn't a scrub last season, right? I see some stuff out there like, oh, he's the most overrated football player in the last 10 years. Whatever. He was drafted number 1 overall. We all know the story. He has not lived up to that hype. He's a victim of his draft positioning, is Jadeveon Clowney. He's had a nice career, a productive career that Jadeveon Clowney is about to get, which will be a budget signing. Whether it's in Cleveland or elsewhere, Jadeveon Clowney is not backing up the Brinks truck at the end of March here into early April. That's just not going to happen. The payday that Clowney is about to get is indicative of the player that he is at this point in his career. And that's not a knock on him. He's had a nice career. He was just drafted too soon. Let me read you guys some of these stats that I found on Jadeveon Clowney and tell me, this is a guy that could replace Olivier Vernon on a good defensive line that Cleveland has, and we could be competitive with Clowney and Garrett and not take that much of a dip off from losing Olivier Vernon to that ruptured Achilles and now free agency. Clowney only played 8 games. He started the season with Tennessee, ended it way too early, ruptured meniscus. Season wasn't too hot. Finished the year with 0 sacks. Teams are paying for sacks nowadays. We've seen it. We've seen it when free agency opened. Lawson, the Jets paid for sacks. Hendrickson, Cincinnati panicked and had to replace Lawson and paid for his sacks. J.J. Watt, same thing, obviously way lesser. He only had 5 last year. All these teams that paid top dollar were paying for sacks. At the defensive end position, and I'm not a football guru, I've never coached, I don't scout or recruit or sit in my basement and watch 30 hours of tape every day. There's more that goes into the defensive end position than just sacks. Like just causing pressure, creating mayhem. That's good. That's what Myles Garrett does. We're all very happy and impressed with him at this juncture, I tend to believe. Jadeveon Clowney, though, 8 games, obviously underwhelming, especially coming off an injury. Question for concern for the Browns, possibly. I think that ties into why they wanted to meet with him today. 8 games, 4 tackles for loss, 6 quarterback hits, and a forced fumble. In 8 games, that's not bad, folks. Plug that next to Myles Garrett. Those probably increase a little bit. And obviously, winning heals all. I don't know off the field what kind of a guy Jadeveon Clowney is. I'm going purely off the stuff that people are tweeting at me and tweeting at the Twitter poll that's live right now at Padone My Take. Tweet me at NickPadone12. Some people question this guy's character. I'm not willing to do that. at this point. I think he would be a fine acquisition if Andrew Berry wanted to do so. I want to hear from you, though, on Twitter at PadoneMyTake. Tweet the show. Tweet me at NickPadone12 because it is officially time. Happy Wednesday, folks, for our Cleveland Browns offseason watch. Alrighty, Cleveland Browns offseason watch time presented by our generous hosts over at BigPlay.com. We have the poll up on Twitter at PadoneMyTake. Do you want the Browns to bring in Jadeveon Clowney? At this time last year, I feel like if I posed that poll, it would be a pretty even split, about 50-50. Today, it's looking a little bit different. As I vote, we have 254 votes in. Great job, guys. Keep blowing that up on Twitter. 66% of people are saying yes, bring in Clowney. 34% of folks say no, they do not want Jadeveon Clowney in Cleveland. Where do you fall? Drop a comment today. Snipe tweets the show and says, never a don't care answer. I think you need a don't care answer so that he doesn't care if the Browns sign Jadeveon Clowney. Nate tweets the show. Nate says, bro is not good. Clown, do not sign this man. Interesting take from Nate. Blue/Cat for me tweets the show and says he's a clown. So there are some dissenting opinions out there on Jadeveon Clowney, despite all the reasons that I just read off for you. If I'm the Browns, guys, if I'm Andrew Berry and I'm sitting in that meeting today and we had just talked, and if things went even well to moderately well, you know, he didn't blow your socks off, this is a veteran defensive end. This is the chip, the piece that you're missing of this free agency puzzle to get you over that. I mean, look at these other moves that he's made, as I have the list pulled up here in front of me now. A safety, a cornerback, a linebacker, a defensive end, a defensive tackle, another linebacker, which is Malcolm Smith, who returned, a wide receiver in Hollywood Higgins, kick returner in JoJo, an offensive lineman, a kicker, a special teams linebacker, and an offensive lineman who is Blake Hance. What's missing? Especially because the D end is Tack McKinley. The interior defensive tackle is Malik Jackson. Well, I like the move, but his better playing days are behind him. And the linebackers are Anthony Walker, who's a good signing, and bringing back Malcolm Smith, which is just whatever. Really good offseason for Andrew Berry thus far. Not knocking him at all. If you're looking to make it an A-plus offseason, sign Jadeveon Clowney. And I know there's some other names out there. You know, Carlos Dunlap is a name that's out there. Justin Houston is a name that's out there on that pass rusher market. That doesn't get anything done for me. We have a comment here on the stream. Clee Paulus tweets the show and says, I want him, but only if he comes crawling back to us for half of last year's offer. That's a very good point. Clee Paulus, thanks for tweeting the show, Nick. Always appreciate you tuning in. Exactly. We're led to believe that the Browns were in the ballpark of $12 to $15 million a year for Jadeveon Clowney last season. If he's willing to take a little bit of a pay cut there, you know, maybe $8 million, buddy, you didn't have a sack last year, I think the deal gets done. But if I'm Andrew Berry and I'm sitting back with my crew, I'm like, man, we've done a good job thus far. Really, we have. I mean, a starting safety that's really good, like really good, top half of the league, really good. A starting corner, which gives us insurance, also capitalize on a position in need. Fill a few other holes, which is what analytically driven front offices tend to do in free agency. What's her missing piece? That starting veteran defensive end. And they've been after that since day one. They've been after that since free agency opened when they missed out on J.J. Watt. Let's get into some other stuff, though. The Clowney Watch will continue throughout the show. The poll is up on Twitter at PadoneMyTake. Do you want Jadeveon Clowney in a Cleveland Browns uniform? I'm ready to do it. Despite some of the naysayers on Twitter that say he's a clown, he's a bum, don't do it. I'm not going to get caught up in the sack numbers, guys. If I'm the Browns, I'm going to say let's bring in Jadeveon Clowney and see if he could be a piece. We know he's not all-world. He's not number 1 overall pick from 2012 or whenever he was drafted. He's a 28-year-old veteran defensive end that is another piece of the big puzzle that is building up this Browns defense. Rome wasn't built in one day. I continue to say that on these airwaves when I talk about this free agency, this draft, as it occurs to building up this defense. Obviously, a sense of urgency is in place because the Super Bowl window is open. We'd like to win those. There have been 55 of them, and my favorite team has never played in one. A good start to that is bringing in Jadeveon Clowney. Temper expectations. He's not the dude that's going to take us to the promised land single-handedly on his big, massive, almighty Jadeveon Clowney shoulders. But he's better than nothing, which is kind of what we have right now outside of Takk McKinley. But let's do it. Let's do some Cleveland Browns free agency grades. I want to hear from you guys. Drop a comment. Tweet me at NickPadone12. Tweet the show at PadoneMyTake. What do you guys think about these free agency grades? What do you grade Andrew Berry's free agency thus far? We start up top, and we start with the first move that Andrew Berry made and bringing in safety John Johnson III. I'm going to give that move an A. I know it seems like a homer take. That was a position in need. And at first, I didn't think so. I believe I even came on this show 2 weeks ago and said the Browns don't really need a safety. You know, they have Ronnie Harrison, they have Grant Delpit, they have Sheldrick Redwine, which if you're new to the program, I am the founder, CEO, co-chairman, etc. of the Sheldrick Redwine fan club. Welcome aboard. If you're selling Sheldrick Redwine stock, I will gladly buy it at whatever price. Huge fan of the guy. I like the swagger that he brings. I didn't think that the safety room was crowded, man. I was like, I don't think the Browns need to pay top dollar for a safety when there's plenty available in the draft. They bring in John Johnson. That's a fine move because he could play. You look for a linebacker safety hybrid guy that could kind of cover all over the field and makes good tackles. Bingo, John Johnson, come on down. A great move by Andrew Berry. I'm a big fan of that one. That one gets an A. Alrighty, we move on to probably what is his second biggest move of free agency, and that's John Johnson's former teammate from Los Angeles in Troy Hill. I like that one a lot as well. That's going to get another A for me. Again, it checks the boxes, right? Position of need, top half player in the league at the position. Troy Hill gets it done for me. Youngstown native. Both of these guys took budget contracts to move from LA to Cleveland. That gets it done for me. That's an A. We move on to linebacker Anthony Walker. He got a lot of love on Twitter, and I think rightfully so. I think he's a good player. This one gets a B- from me. I think this was just a signing that replaces B.J. Goodson. And I think Anthony Walker is a fine linebacker. I think he's smart. I think he's a good tackler. I think he covers the field well. He's definitely a lot faster than B.J. Goodson. But I think it's going to be similar production between the two. And that's not a knock on Anthony Walker. That's not a knock on B.J. Goodson. It's just that signing didn't get me out of my seat. A B- is still good. That's still a passing grade, especially with how cheap it was. I hate saying this because I know they don't value the position at all. And my caption of warning, like we should literally put it somewhere here in studio. Like I need to have Dave print a sign that says proceed with caution. The Browns don't value linebackers. And then in fine print, not going to pay top dollar for one. Ever. Not going to draft one in the first round. Probably not going to draft one in the second round. It's just not a position that they value. So proceed with caution there. Anthony Walker, for them, they probably believe it was a home run signing. They signed the guy for under, $6 million. They think he's going to play good enough, which is what they expect from their linebackers with those 5 good DBs, a few 3 shutdown corners and some good safety play. They think you could have, average to above average linebacker play. So Anthony Walker gets a B from me. We move on to Takk McKinley. And I saw some people kind of eating this one up too. Like, man, Takk McKinley, like, what's he done? He's been a bust. This is the definition of an Andrew Berry signing. A guy that's coming off of his first contract in the NFL, former first round pick, hasn't panned out. Had some sparks of doing really good things, but overall hasn't lived up to complete potential and complete hype. I like the comments that he gave during his introductory press conference where he told Mary Kay Cabot, if I want to make it in the NFL any further past this contract, I need to start acting like it. He had the suit and tie on. I think that's the kind of player that the Browns need, with a good mindset, good mentality. Come be part of the solution, not part of the problem. I'm going to give Takk McKinley signing a B. I don't know why. It's not an A. It's not an A. It doesn't get me out of my seat, but it's also not a C because I see what they were doing there. I see the potential. I like the excitement of Takk McKinley could be a player for the Browns, at least in rotation, especially if this Jadeveon Clowney deal gets done. I think as it stands today, guys, and what are your thoughts on this? Tweet the show at Padone My Take. Tweet me at NickPadone12. As it stands today, without Jadeveon Clowney, is Takk McKinley the starting defensive end opposite Myles Garrett? Scares me a little bit. Again, another reason that I'm very interested in this Jadeveon Clowney signing to happen, hopefully at some moment. Obviously, the meeting, a very good step in the right direction of that overall outcome. Next move, we have defensive tackle Malik Jackson. I went ahead and gave that one a B as well. I couldn't give it a B minus. I definitely couldn't give it a C because it was so cheap. That's depth. That's probably like the, Vincent Taylor replacement to play interior defensive tackle. I like that Malik Jackson has been part of good football teams. I think that is something that this Cleveland Browns defense missed, was the kind of leader that's won games before. And I know Sheldon Richardson has a big mouth and is vocal in the locker room. That's very good. I think you need several of those guys, and Myles Garrett is trying to become that, and he leads much more quietly. Same with Denzel Ward, who's a very soft-spoken character. I like the Malik Jackson move a lot. I hope he could be noisy in the locker room and get these guys fired up because he's played winning football in Philadelphia. He's been a part of great defenses and great defensive lines. If he could bring that swagger and that mindset to Cleveland, count me in. I'm a big fan of it. We got to run, though. Tweet that on Twitter at Padone My Take. Go vote on the poll. You're about to see it right now. You guys are listening to Padone My Take on BigPlay.com. My name is Nick Padone. Don't stay anywhere. We'll be right back. Alrighty, welcome on back in Padone My Take, streaming live on BigPlay.com, of course, on Periscope, Facebook, YouTube on Big Play Live. We're also live on Sportscaster, and as always, on demand for free on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. My name is Nick Padone, hanging out with you guys until the top of the 9 o'clock hour on BigPlay.com. You saw that poll on your screen right there. Do you want the Cleveland Browns to bring in Jadeveon Clowney, free agent pass rusher, who the team, according to several reports, met with today? We have 300 plus votes going on this Twitter poll right now, guys. Great job. Keep blowing that up. And the results are starting to skew the way that I thought it was. People want Jadeveon Clowney. Here in Cleveland, 62% of people are saying yes, 38% of people are saying no. So it's starting to plateau a little bit, starting to even out. Moose tweets the show and says, duh, this would be a no-brainer. Low risk and low cost for a possible high reward if his knee is good to go and if he's actually motivated. I agree with you there. Ryan tweets the show and says 2/3 of the fan base is saying yes. Go get it done, AB. That's where I'm at as well. Time for the Browns to bring in Jadeveon Clowney. I think he perfectly rounds out what they've done already in this outstanding free agency offseason class. This is the missing piece, is that big name free agent pass rusher. Go get me Jadeveon Clowney, AB. Let's go get it done. Cheers to that. We're grading the Browns free agency thus far as we sit today, hopefully on the wake of a Jadeveon Clowney signing in the near future after that meeting took place. Last grade was Malik Jackson, who I gave a B. Let's get on to Malcolm Smith. I'm going to give him a C. He was good last year. I get that they had to bring him back. Good depth. Don't want to see him playing a whole lot. Hopefully, the linebackers, Jacob Phillips, and if Mac Wilson and Sione Takitaki can improve it as well, hopefully we get to a point where we can see less and less of Malcolm Smith. But we have heard good things about him on the Big Play Network. If you've listened, Big Play Reflog Show, we've had Jacob Phillips on, we have Mac Wilson on all the time, friends of the show, and they say that, Malcolm Smith, BJ Goodson, those guys were awesome mentors. So I like that move solely just to have some mentorship back. But Malcolm Smith, he doesn't move the needle at all. We saw him and what he was able to do last year. And that Chad and Henne run, come on, man. Chad Henne. Malcolm Smith. All right, he gets a C. Let's get on to Rashard Hollywood Higgins. Welcome back. That gets an A. What more needs to be said? When that signing happened, I literally couldn't think of anything to tweet. I couldn't think of anything to write on Fansided's Dog Pound Daily. I couldn't think of anything that needed to be said, but that's a good move. You had to bring back Hig. The fans love him. Obviously, Baker's security net. That gets an A. What more needs to be said? JoJo Natson's return. I actually gave that a C, and I'm a big JoJo Natson fan. I wrote a feature story on JoJo Natson and his time at the University of Akron and how Akron was part of him turning his life around, and he played in a Super Bowl with the Rams. I gave it a C, though, because I feel like you could have anybody return kicks. I personally operate under the ideology and under the belief, we're not going to talk draft tonight, we have plenty of that coming in the next month, that the Browns will draft a wide receiver in the top 100 in this upcoming NFL draft. That's right, top 100. So if that holds true and the Browns do draft a receiver, you would hope it's one that has some speed, and I think that could impact the return game. JoJo, though, I love you. I gave it a C. Probably too harsh. I should have gave it a B. Cody Parkey's return. This one might throw you guys out of your chair a little bit. What do you guys think of the Browns bringing back Cody Parkey? Tweet the show at Padone My Take. Tweet me at NickPadone12. I gave this one a B. Believe it or not. Parkey was good last year. He had that stretch at the end of the season when the Browns were trying to get into the playoffs where he stunk and he was missing. But into playoffs, he was perfect. Didn't miss a kick against Pittsburgh, against KC. And he was 19 of 22 on field goals all year long. I like that it's a one-year deal. There was a lot of voidable cash in that as well. So expect the Cleveland Browns to bring in some kicking competition, whether it's an undrafted free agent or another free agent kicker to Berea for training camp in a normal training camp offseason that they will have now that these vaccines in Ohio are rolling out a little bit quicker. I would expect Cody Parkey to have some competition, but I actually like the signing. He was good for us last year, despite that little patch of time at the end where things got a little crazy. Elijah Lee, he's a special teams player. I give him a C because I don't know. And Blake Hance, I gave that one a B because he played tremendously well, stepped off a practice squad, and started, a very important game for the Browns. Came into the fold with some injuries too. Blake Hance earned that 2-year extension that he got. I gave that one a B. That's all we got for our grades, but it is time for some NBA talk before we get into our plays of the week. Ironically, our NBA talk and our Twitter poll on Twitter at Padone My Take, do you want to see the Cleveland Browns bring in Jadeveon Clowney, is presented by my friends over at Dugout Mugs. Baseball is back. Spring training is here. It's time to order that bat mug, folks. You guys hear me talk about this bad boy every week. You know what you need to do. Order your Dugout Mugs so it gets here for opening day. These are real handcrafted baseball bats with the barrel hollowed out and engraved with your favorite team's logo right on the front of it. Makes for the perfect off-season beer mug to sip into opening day. Must-have item for every baseball fan. I'm in the dugout. I want you guys to be as well. For my Clevelanders, visit dugoutmugs.com/bigplay. That's how you join the dugout. Obviously, I love mine. You will too. They have bat mugs, wine glasses, shot glasses, bottle openers, you name it, all engraved with that Block C. Visit them today, dugoutmugs.com/bigplay. The NBA trade deadline is here. The Cavs are going right now, end of the first quarter in Chicago. Seems as if the Cavs are tied up with the Bulls 25-25. Colin Sexton, inactive tonight. I'm not going to feed too much into that on the show. I don't think Colin Sexton is getting traded. I think it's just routine hamstring soreness. I would be devastated. I would be beside myself if I log on to Twitter at any point tomorrow and I see the Woj bomb that Colin Sexton has been traded. I see the fear that's in everyone's, existence out there. Cavs, please don't trade Colin. There's no upside. What are you going to get? Victor Oladipo? Like, that doesn't do anything. Don't trade Colin, but there are some trades that the Cavs are probably going to make. I have to believe that the Cavs do something tomorrow. If they win tonight, they're just 2.5 games out of that 10th seed, which is where you need to be to crack the NBA play-in tournament that will take place ahead of the first round. This year, we've played it the last, 3 weeks on this show, to tank or not to tank. I want to see the Cavs play meaningful basketball, man. I really do. I know last week I was so close to throwing in the towel. I was so close to saying, let's go get Cade Cunningham. Kevin Love was back, and now he's hurt again, and who knows if he's ever going to play for the Cavs again. I want to see the Cavs do something. Be aggressive. I don't know if Kobe Altman is on the hot seat. You see mixed reviews about him there. I perfectly like what he's doing. He tries to insert himself into moves. We got Jared Allen. Obviously, this Andre Drummond thing appears to be a failed experiment. Let's stay active. Let's do something. On the Andre Drummond front, it appears as if the New York Knicks are potential suitors. If the Cavs do move Drummond to New York, I would like to walk away with Kevin Knox. It's at least a young 3 that I think the Cavs could benefit from having. He's very young. I mean, he was in Sexton's class, right? So only a third-year player who hasn't lived up to expectations, to the hype. He hasn't lived up to any of it. You hope that the Cavs walk away from tomorrow with more than a second-round pick, because I know that's what's being floated out there. Andre Drummond, JaVale McGee, both, if not, hopefully definitely one, if not both of those guys will probably be moved tomorrow. You just got to hope that you get more than a second. And I know you gave up spare parts for JaVale McGee, but a contending team is going to be able to use him. I've enjoyed his Cavs tenure a lot. He plays with good energy. I think he's a good locker room guy by all accounts. I would just hate to let him go for a second-round pick that we might not ever see get beyond Canton. Same with Andre Drummond. We traded Brandon Knight and John Henson plus a second-round pick for Drummond, and all you're going to get back is a second. Like, that would be really sad, just on the surface. And I think he does have value. My gripe with tomorrow's deadline is no move that the Cavs make is going to move the needle. They're going to be a 10th, 9th, or they're going to be not a 9th. They're going to be 10th, 11th, or 12th seed at season end. They're just not that good of a team. I don't know why. At the beginning of the year, I cracked this mic and said I thought they were going to make the playoffs, forget the play-in tourney. They were going to be the 8th seed. They were going to be the NBA's most fun team to watch. And the season started that way, but man, this dip has been tough. I don't know what the Cavs do. I expect the worst, hope for the best as it occurs to them. Around the league, I would look for Victor Oladipo, Lonzo Ball to be on the move. I'm curious to see where both of those guys go, because Lonzo Ball, I think people need to stop slandering him. Obviously, he's not a scoring machine like people want out of their point guards in today's NBA. He's a much more like true, I don't want to say Chris Paul because that's such a lofty comparison, but it's true. He passes the ball well. He dribbles. He's a floor manager. I would hate to get rid of that guy for just nothing. Like, if I'm New Orleans, I think they'll get something, if not something big, in return for Lonzo Ball. Same with Victor Oladipo. I think he still has some sort of value. It's just that the Rockets stink. We talk about the Cavs, man. Houston is horrible. They need all the help that they could get, preferably in, terms of draft picks is the biggest thing for them. Excited to see what that happens. NBA trade deadline is tomorrow. Be on the lookout. Fun stuff, man. Always some fun stuff in the NBA. Seems like never a dull moment. Alrighty, though. Here's what's trending. Alrighty, welcome on in to What's Trending. On Padone My Take, we do this segment presented by my generous show hosts at bigplay.com. Of course, visit the Big Play store and use promo code Padone, that's my last name, Padone, for 15% off your entire purchase. You won't regret it. The Big Play store. They got some great designs. Welcome to the Play of the Week, though, presented by Big Play, where we rank our small play of the week, something that completely missed the mark, our medium play of the week, something that was almost hit the mark, and our big play of the week, something that just impressed the pants off of me. We start off on What's Trending with my small play of the week, the Ohio State Buckeyes. What a turd. What a turd performance the Buckeyes went out there and put out against Oral Roberts.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And more importantly, not only was the turd present, the fact that fans, and I don't know if they were Buckeyes fans, I don't know if they were just delusional people on social media, I don't know what happened. People were tweeting at E.J. Liddell, sliding into his Instagram DMs, sending him death threats. The guy is a college athlete. He's a kid. If you do that, you stink.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Don't do that. Let's defund that. Let's stop sending death threats to college athletes because they didn't play well in a March Madness game against Oral Roberts. Jeez. Last week, my small play of the week was March Madness. Seems like March Madness is back, huh? How about that? Old takes exposed, because this has been an outstanding tournament. This tournament has been so much fun. All the upsets, OU being a Cinderella, all the way up until the end there. Same with, we were hoping Cleveland State, and the Buckeyes just laid an egg. That's why you're my small play of the week, as well as the people that wanted to send E.J. Liddell death threats for whatever reason. I guess I'm just wired differently than those people. Like, that thought just never even radiates through my brain when I'm mad at an athlete. And I rip athletes. Don't get me wrong. If you follow me on Twitter at NickPadone12, shameless plug, you'll see that I'm not, like, nice to some of these guys. Like, I'm blocked by a few Indians relievers from like years ago before I even considered getting into sports media. Zach McAllister had me blocked. So, but to tweet death threats and to slide into DMs, there's a line. There's a line between being a fan and being an absolute lunatic. And fans absolutely crossed that line this week for E.J. Liddell. Time for my medium play of the week, which is boats. Boats are my medium play of the week, as there is a giant ship container blocking the Suez Canal. What? How does a ship container... First off, the Suez Canal, I didn't know anything about it. I'm not going to pretend to be a freight expert on the show. It seemed to be very narrow and very shallow. Probably, again, not an expert, not a rocket scientist, not an engineer. Maybe let's not send giant boats down the Suez Canal. Like, what did we expect? Of course the thing was going to get stuck. It was huge. And it looked like it was going through like a little creek, like behind my house. Like, there's a little creek. What are we doing? Sending this big package in there. So evidently this was a huge problem. I didn't know this. I just recently learned that the Suez Canal is like a huge deal for, other boats, like other big boats to just bring our things in on. And because this big gigantic one like shored up and pretty much went into the sand, it was like sideways, so the rest of the boats couldn't get through. Big boat traffic jam. Last I checked, the thing is still in there. It hasn't moved. People are waiting for their stuff because they sent this gigantic boat through this little creek. And it's the same thing. The first thing I thought, and maybe this is just the internal fatty in me, thought this is exactly like at the drive-thru, at Wendy's, at McDonald's, where there's the gigantic thing when you're about to go through that says trucks no bigger than 7 feet, 8 feet. You can't go through. If you have a semi, you're not going through. You're not getting the 4x4. If you have a big truck, you're going to get stuck. The Suez Canal, it sounds like needs some similar signage because that big boat got stuck and probably is going to delay a bunch of people's packages or groceries or whatever people are using the Suez Canal to transport is going to be stuck. Thank you. That's my medium play of the week because I don't understand how that happens. Like, I don't understand why are we sending this gigantic thing through this little creek. If you look up pictures of it, it's absolutely absurd. It's like beach, so much beach on this side, a ton of beach on this side, a little bit of water, and this gigantic ship where you could see how it got caught sideways. I have no idea how that happened. Time for my big play of the week, though. Small play of the week, March Madness. Medium play of the week, the Suez Canal. Big play of the week, presented by BigPlay.com. The city of Cleveland. This town, man. The NFL draft is here. It's happening. It's going to be a blast. They're getting the vaccinated individuals in there. We're having a real draft, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. We're not doing any of that virtual draft stuff. We're not doing any of the at-home Zoom Pizza Huts getting delivered. We're having a real draft in Cleveland, Ohio in about a month. And it's going to be packed down there. People are going to be happy. People are going to be smiling. People are hopefully going to be safe. And it's going to be a great time. What a great week for the city of Cleveland and the opportunity that the city of Cleveland holds at the end of April here to just showcase how great this town is, man. It's been tough on downtown with the COVID stuff and with some of the riots that happened over the summer. You know, some of those businesses were going through it. We've seen it. We've heard the news. If you can and if you feel safe, head downtown for the NFL draft. Buy a beer at a local restaurant, you know, grab dinner, get some food, take some pictures. There's going to be sights to see down there, man. If anything, they're setting it up, it appears, in the same area as the MLB All-Star Game stuff, like where that was at. If it's anything like that, the people watching will be... We did Man on the Street with BigPlay.com. Me, Dave, Big Play Jay, and we had the most fun during MLB All-Star Weekend, going down there with the microphone. The Joe Thomas interview was awesome. The Omar Vizquel interview, meeting him was super cool. But to go down there and stick a microphone in a drunk person's face and ask them Cleveland Indians trivia questions, some of the answers that we got were the funniest thing that I've heard in such a long time. It's great, people watching. It's going to be a fun time. Obviously, people are still going to be masked up. People are going to be safe. We all want to have a great time at the NFL draft. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it shakes out because really this could be one of the biggest events since Corona, right? Obviously, last year it was like it ended way too soon right at the end because NFL draft gets canceled. It's all virtual. We weren't even sure if they were going to be able to pull the thing off. You know, there was jokes like whose internet's going to give out. Obviously, it went fine and it went according to plan. But that was one of the things that got canceled very early on in COVID-19. Obviously, March Madness, that's big, but you watch these games and they still have like the huge, big like advertisement tarps that like go over the front rows of seats and you can't really see the fans. Whereas the NFL draft in Cleveland, Ohio, we have a prime opportunity to show the world how well we're doing here and how well, you know, our destination Cleveland that's putting this on. I'm very excited and very optimistic because I think if it goes well, it's going to be an awesome showing of what the city is capable of. Obviously, they've already done that. The RNC did wonders. That's how we got this. That's how we got the MLB All-Star Game. 2022, we have the NBA All-Star Weekend. We're going to have the threes, the dunks, obviously the game, and then we get Women's March Madness. After that, they just re-signed to keep the MAC tournament at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse through like 2030. Things are looking up. Always great to be from Cleveland, Ohio, man. So cool to see. Can't wait for the draft. We're going to have some draft talk on Padone My Take. Don't you worry. Get some draft experts on. Maybe do a mock draft live on the show. Who knows? Sky is the limit for what we're capable of. Thank you guys so much for hanging out on Padone My Take. What an absolutely fun hour. If you're just tuning in and if you missed any of it, I implore you, go on Apple Pods, go on Spotify, subscribe to the show, leave us a 5-star review. It's the only place that you could be to make sure that you're not missing a segment, you're not missing an awesome interview. We got some of those in store as well for this Cleveland Browns offseason. Come on, man. You don't want to miss that. Go subscribe on there. Get your dugout mugs today. dugoutmugs.com/bigplay. View their entire tribe collection. I'm in the dugout. You should be too. And of course, visit my friends over at the Big Play store. Grab a Padone My Take shirt while you're there. Use promo code Padone. Is going to get you 15% off your entire order. Huge thanks to all those guys. Huge thanks to all of you guys and everybody that interacted on tonight's program, on Periscope, on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course on bigplay.com. For bigplay.com, my name is Nick Padone. Go live your life. Go hug a loved one. Do so safely. You guys deserve it. You guys see it just like I do. The light is hopefully at the end of the tunnel here. As the great Joe Tate used to say, good night, everyone.